guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Rundown. My name is AZ.
And I am JDR. What is going on, everybody?
And we are coming to you on a different avenue. We had to take a little bit of a week off, but, you know, we ain't gonna stop.
Just like Kobe Bryant. Can't be stopped in the hotel room. Can't stop, won't stop.
Because just like him, no, you know, just like no does not mean no for us. We ain't gonna be stopped. And like I said, we're coming to you guys in a different avenue, but we really enjoy what we do. We really enjoy talking sports, and we ain't gonna stop. So we're gonna come to you in different ways and different avenues. But if you keep up with us on Twitter and on Facebook, you will be informed as to what we are up to and talking about. But talking about that, last week we had a very eventful sports week, and it all started out with the boxing match that was supposed to be the most, well, it ended up being the most expensive match of all time, but also was painted to be the greatest match of all time, and it did not deliver, did it, JDR?
It didn't. It was supposed to be our Thriller in Manila, and it wasn't. It was on the boring side. It was also on the expensive side, and we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the fact that now there's people that are suing Manny Pacquiao in a class action suit because they want their money back. That said, though, I understand that this match was supposed to be the type of marquee event to bring people back into boxing and bring boxing back into the mainstream. I just think it was the wrong fighter to do so, because for the last couple of years, Mayweather's fights have been on the defensive side. His job is to not get hit, not get knocked down, and that's what he does, and does it well. So if people are upset that the match, because it wasn't a fight, it was a match, it was a boxing match, they wanted to see somebody get knocked out, well, you got the wrong guy. It wasn't going to happen here. I was disappointed in the fact that to agree with Pacquiao, I did think that he had landed really good punches. The punches he did land were really good, because Mayweather didn't land any of those haymakers like that. And so when they asked him if he felt he won the fight, he said yes. Well, they asked him why he wasn't so aggressive, and he said, well, I felt I won the fight. And I've said on previous episodes that a lot of the fights that I'd seen Mayweather do, he had won by decision. It's been a while since he's won by knockout. And the ones he did win by decision, I felt he didn't deserve them. I felt that they were just given to him. So it definitely hurt the sport for it to end like that in a decision. For most everybody, though, it was a unanimous decision that Mayweather won the match. But I think because of the day and age where we live in, people just wanted to see a nice brawl, and we didn't get it. No,
we did not get that at all. And you're right. I mean, Manny Pacquiao, it was a difficult interview to watch after the match. He really, I guess he really did feel like he won the match. I think Money just did whatever he needed to do to win, and that was his game plan all the way going through. He just wasn't gonna get down and dirty with it. And I guess that's what people wanted. One of the interesting things that came about as soon as the match was over was Oscar de la Hoya sending out a tweet saying that he apologized to all boxing fans for what happened. What do you think about that? I mean, one of the guys that's used to run all the time was Oscar de la Hoya, so I didn't understand that tweet at all.
Funny how he apologizes for that match, but he didn't apologize for the one that you and I watched together a couple years back between himself and Floyd Mayweather, and that match was the same way. It was hyped, and it was supposed to be a nice knockdown drag-out, and again, it was so boring and uneventful. Again, that one I didn't feel Mayweather should have won, but he did. So, dude, if you're going to apologize, maybe that's the old Shakespeare adage, methinks thou doth protest too much. Maybe he was finally apologizing for that horrible performance that we saw in 2007.
There was a few matches that we were just trying to figure out De La Hoya especially towards the end of his career, and
not the face De La Hoya, right? Not the face. You can't hit the face, not the face.
Not the face.
He needs it for his album covers and his press releases and his clothing line, whatever the heck he had going on. But point is, not the face. You can't hit him in the face.
Right.
A boxer can't get hit in the face. Certainly in the right field for that.
You mentioned the lawsuits of people. These are lawsuits in California and in Nevada that are coming out. And they're going for the $5 million. Both of them are. That's what they want. And they are demanding that everybody who bought the fight gets their money back in that $5 million. I mean, one of the things that really is disconcerting was the fact that after it's all said and done, and Manny Pacquiao is, you know, he's kind of perceived like, well, he was crying after the match, and you know, I mean, he lost him, but he wasn't taking it well. And then it turns out that the next day or the following day, it turns out, well, hey, guess what? He had a rotator cuff injury, and that's the reason he lost. I believe it's the boxing administration comes on and said, well, you didn't check that whenever you answered the questionnaire. And so there you are, man. I mean, another lie. And I mean, that should have been said, man. A rotator cuff injury is nothing to laugh at or nothing to, I don't know. I have no idea how he fought with that injury, man. Because it is a difficult injury. It is it hurts, you know?
Only in this country can you do a match like that injured and be called a punk or a wuss afterwards. I just want to point that out. Only in this country can that happen. I was like, okay, I don't know if it's legit or not.
I am thinking more of the fan, of the individual who put out $100 for that high definition, expecting a healthy Manny Pacquiao because there was no reports of anything other than that. And it never happened, as you would sit back and watch it, because Manny Pacquiao was hurt and he wasn't going to be able to deliver that kind of a match.
In that regard, yeah, you're right. It should have been disclosed and he should have brought it up. But we're at a point where this match was going to be raking in all these hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you think there was any way this was not going to happen on the date that was already set?
It couldn't be moved. You're right. It couldn't be moved. But who knew? Who knew that he had been hurt? I mean, because it just seems like it was just like we just got robbed, man.
Are you telling me that you're surprised that there's the possibility of improprieties happening in boxing? I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. I checked it out. I'm not a huge boxing fan. I tend to watch a lot of the big ones like a lot of people tend to do. But again, I bring up the fact that, and certainly you can agree with this, and those of us that are still wrestling fans can agree with this, we are marginalized and penalized and ridiculed by people. Oh, you used to watch wrestling? You watch that fake stuff? Well, when we hear stuff like this going on, did both camps know that he was hurt? What about the rematch and all this stuff? It just reeks of fraud and dishonesty.
Yeah.
So then I always say, well, which is the truly fake sport here? Because last time I checked, though, the results for the WWE are predetermined and whatnot, those guys still take an ass whooping just like anybody else.
Yeah. They're not running from anything.
No, they're not. And they do this year round. They have a couple weeks off, scattered, of course, never a nice vacation, but they do this all the time. So in that sense, I'm immune to a lot of the criticisms that I'm hearing for the boxing, because this is the type of stuff that I have to defend as a wrestling fan. Unfortunately, this isn't what boxing used to be. Certainly when we were young, when we were kids, a boxing fight was a fight. And as much as people go and ridicule Mike Tyson, for a long time, Mike Tyson was, quote, the baddest man on the planet. And he earned that for a reason. The dude delivered. When you watch the Mike Tyson fight, you watch somebody get knocked out till next week. You don't see that in boxing anymore, or certainly not in a Mayweather match, but that is what boxing used to be. And I think that's probably what everyone expected to see. And in that regard, you can only blame yourself, because you should have known, and I certainly did, and I hope that maybe the people that are a little sore about the result, check out our episodes next time. You'll be ahead of the game. I said it would go this way. I said Mayweather would win by decision. It wasn't as close as I hoped it was, and each round I kept hearing the way that the scores were being set out, and I was like, wait a minute, how did Pacquiao not win that? He landed a couple good punches there. Wait a minute, why is Mayweather winning? And then there were a couple I was like, well, of course Mayweather won. He threw more punches. And again, the question here is your outlook on boxing. Which blows matter to you? The ones that you land, or the nice ones? The ones that do damage? Because in that regard, I felt Pacquiao the blows that he landed did a lot more damage than the ones that Mayweather landed, but Mayweather landed more, so that's how they scored it. Again, I disagree with it, but that's the way it was.
That's the way they score the card. It's, and especially like in the 10th, 11th round, 12th round, you would have thought they would have both been going at it, like just going at it, and it never happened. And that I think that rotator cuff injury was to blame, because I think we could have had a much better show if that wasn't there, because you were sitting back and wondering what is going on, because yes, he's got 64, 65 matches under his belt now, Pacquiao does, but he still, I believe at least, he should have performed better than this, and now we know why.
Now, we've been gone for 2 weeks right now, so for those of you that felt cheated from that match, I got a little bit of retribution watching the match that happened over this past weekend, which emanated here out of Houston, between Canelo Alvarez and James Kirkland. That match definitely delivered, and I thought it was kind of funny because both matches were HBO events, and even some of the guys that were calling the match were saying, if you were put to sleep last week, you might want to stay awake for this one, because somebody will be put to sleep in this one, because you had two guys that they knocked out people. This is what they do. Just to give you guys an example of how short this match was, I went and got a cheesecake right as Michael Buffer was doing his whole let's get ready to rumble thing. I got my cheesecake, sat down. Match was over in 3 rounds. I still had half my cheesecake. My cheesecake outlasted Kirkland being knocked out in the 3rd round. Maybe next time, I think, hopefully, people will be more selective about where they drop $100. I felt that it wasn't warranted, and I said so. Not because I didn't like the fighters. Obviously, Mayweather is very controversial. You like watching him, or you like watching him get hit, if you're standing in my corner. And I love Manny Pacquiao, but I still felt it wasn't worth $100. That's a lot of money.
And we talked about that. I mean, it was setting a bad precedent. So it was gonna be tough, because if you pay that price, if you make these people think, you're gonna pay that price, what's to say the next match you won't? They're gonna put that price tag on it, and then the next one after that, then it becomes the norm. And then special matches, or the ones that are the next big thing, are gonna be 150. So then that's what happens right there. So both of these guys got a great payday, man. I mean, they walked away with some good chunk of money, and I mean, the talk is that they do want a rematch. It kind of looks like that's gonna happen right now. I think Mayweather's playing the card of because he's a crybaby, I ain't gonna give him no rematch or whatever. But I think if the money's there, and the money will be there, unfortunately.
Now, do you think the money being what it is, being such a big payout for the Pac-Man, do you think that had anything to do with the fact that he concealed this injury, if in fact he didn't tell his own camp, let alone Mayweather's camp? Do you think that the payday was the decision behind him not disclosing it?
You can't. Everything has been scheduled. Everything's ready to go. And this can't be like, we'll do it, a week from today, or we'll do it a year from today. I mean, it's just not going to happen, because, I mean, that rotator cuff injury is about a year away.
The other factor is, not only did people have issues during the fight, which I wasn't aware of, because I didn't pay for the fight, and I'll leave it at that. The pay-per-view companies, the cable operators, struggled with people buying it last minute. They had such a huge influx of people buying it on a whim, so they'd already missed all the undercard matches. They just wanted the main event, so they ordered it, and there was such a huge build-up, and they couldn't send it out as fast enough. They had to delay the match about 30 minutes. That's huge. So with that in mind, there is no way this was going to get postponed. I mean, let's be honest. The money's already been paid, already been taken out of your account. The signal's been beamed to you. Everybody's got their food. Everybody's got their parties, and everybody's got their brews going. No way was this going to get pushed back. There was no way.
I have a feeling that people knew about it, and I mean, certain people knew about it that could have stopped it, and they didn't, and that's disappointing, because the one who loses is the fan.
Bro, anytime you watch a Mayweather fight, you're going to get robbed. I mean, I'm surprised he has as many fans as he does, because watching the guy fight is like watching paint dry. It's boring. All he does is run. Everybody was picking on Pacquiao after the match when he was being interviewed, and he said, quote, he didn't do nothing. He just ran. He went on the outside and he didn't do nothing.
What about that guy that was interviewing him, man? I mean, wasn't that the worst?
Big time. He does Sports Nation with my girl Michelle Beadle. Shout out to Michelle Beadle. What's up, Michelle? And he took a lot of crow for that on the Monday episode preceding the match because a lot of people felt that he was rude, and I felt he was. I mean, if he had done it to Mayweather and Mayweather had lost, I would be saying the same thing. That was a jerk thing to do. He kind of just scoffed at it because Manny said, "I thought I won." Wait, you thought you won? I thought it was completely disrespectful and rude. He's not conducting a quote-unquote interview. You don't have him sat down and you can just go ahead and ridicule what he says. You're interviewing him after a match which he has signed a deal with your network. He's an HBO employee as much as he is an ESPN employee. So I felt it was rude, and even at the end of it, after Manny explained his deal, he said, "Well, we didn't think that ringside, the fans didn't think that, and the judges didn't think that either." I mean, that was beyond rude to me. At the very least, it was rude. I can't speak to the fact if it was unprofessional. I don't work for HBO. Don't work for ESPN.
I know you never seen that before. You never seen anybody get thrown things like that right after the match. Like, you're supposed to ask basic questions. You know, you can't. I don't understand. I didn't understand that.
But I felt that he was right though. That Pacquiao was right. He didn't do anything but run. We go from the yawn fest that was that match to the NFL, which is never boring, even on the off season. We just got through the draft, which that was another thing. Boy, that weekend was packed a couple weekends ago. We had the NBA playoffs, and then we had the Kentucky Derby, and we had the
Game
NFL
7. Draft. We had, I mean, that was everything, man, all packed in right there.
So we'll go into Game 7, which I think will be, and it will go down to be the best series of all of these playoffs, including the finals. We'll go into that a little bit later, but going in talking about the NFL, so the draft finally happened, and I made the mistake of watching that movie Draft Day, which came out a year ago. I watched it leading up to the draft and found the draft to be just like the Pacquiao-Mayweather match, pretty boring because it was pretty uneventful. But as expected by most everybody, Jameis Winston wound up being the number 1 overall draft pick, so he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Marcus Mariota went out to the Titans. So there really weren't any surprises. The only surprises for me was that Brett Hundley went all the way down. He was picked by the Packers, and Bryce Petty didn't do too well either. He was picked in the 3rd round, if I recall. So I was pretty shocked that quarterbacks, because we're in a quarterback-driven league now, I didn't think that they would fall as far as they did. So that kind of was a shock. I think that the teams that make the biggest splash, or certainly the team that make the biggest splash, got to be your Cowboys.
The Cowboys, probably for the wrong reasons they made the biggest splash, was they kind of, I guess, wanted to prove a point that they didn't need a running back, and they were fine with the running backs they had. They did not pick up a running back to replace DeMarco Murray or to try and fill that gap. But they did get this guy from Nebraska. His name is Randy Gregory, and he fell all the way into the 2nd round, went 60th overall, and he's the best defensive end talent-wise in the draft, and the Dallas Cowboys picked him up in the 2nd round. Bit of a risk because of his off-field issues, and quite of off-field issues that he has had. You know, the Dallas Cowboys took a risk on that, but I think they definitely are needing a defensive end that can rush the passer and get sacks, and I think this guy is it. And if he can stay out of trouble, and I mean, he can start right away. That's how good he is, and we'll see if this pays off, if this risk that the Cowboys took pays off, and depending on what happens to Greg Hardy and his suspension, if that comes down from 10 games, we'll see if that defense is gonna be stacked, man. So it's gonna be good to watch.
Now, I'm not one to give credit where credit is due, especially when it comes to the Cowboys, because I think you guys give yourselves too much credit as it is.
With America's team, don't you think that's a little...
I'd have to say that's the Patriots. We'll get into them later, because they've been making some headlines of their own, and unfortunately not for the draft. But I'm going to have to disagree with you. I don't know if... I can't say that it was a risky move. Jerry Jones is one of those guys that, unless you're a Cowboys fan, you love to bash on him, because he's so involved. He's not your typical owner. And I actually like that, because the Cowboys, love them or hate them, their fan base is rabid. And you guys are insane about your Cowboys. You love them. And it shows. There's always an excitement about you guys. Regardless of how y'all do in the season, regardless of what you think of your quarterback, you guys can talk smack about your quarterback all you want to. When somebody does it, hey, that's a Cowboys quarterback. Settle down. Jerry Jones is the same way. And he has a knack of making good pick decisions when it comes to the draft. I like the way that the Cowboys handled this pick. What I really liked about Gregory's agent, obviously, he's got a problem with anxiety, and rightfully or wrongfully, and we don't have to get into the debate of it. His problem off the field has to do with his use of marijuana to deal with it. That is the reason he gave. Now, I can't say if it's legitimate or not. But he was very contrite and apologetic about the situation, but he did say this is how he's been dealing with it. So that the way that the agents handled this whole process on his behalf, when they shopped him around, they said, we don't really care about the money, and we don't care about the perks. We want him to go to a team that knows how to use him, but also can assign a guy to shadow him, because he needs some protection. He needs somebody looking out for him. So even after all that, a lot of teams were interested. The Cowboys were the ones that rolled the dice and got him. But they've done this before with quote-unquote troubled players. But I like that about them, that they didn't run from it. Potentially, they've got a steal in their hands. The guy dropped immediately because of his problems off field, because he was a shoo-in to be in the first round. He was a first-rounder for sure. Until he got busted, he slid down. I applaud that, though, because the Cowboys aren't a team that cares what people think. They get whoever they want to get, and that's cool. But this was a scenario where I think they generally showed a level of concern for this guy, because they could have said, you know what, we have enough trouble as it is. Like you said, they have Greg Hardy to contend with, and of course they've got Des Bryant, who's very outspoken for y'all. But I like that they went in and they took this risk, like you said. I think it's going to pay off, but I really like the way it was handled. So I just think that they deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, everybody's just going to sit back and see how things pan out this year. So we'll see what happens. I mean, and there's still that whole question about AP. Adrian Peterson is not going to be a Viking, and there's still a cloud hanging over especially AT&T Stadium, of whether or not he's going to end up being a Dallas Cowboy, if he's going to be playing with that star on his helmet. Because every day it kind of goes away, but then every week I see a little story about somebody talking about Adrian Peterson as a Dallas Cowboy. And it's not just the Dallas Cowboys, news team. It's also ESPN. I mean, you name it. It's all over the place, and it pops up here and there. So somebody's sending out information about that, and so somebody's interested. And I really do think it's the Adrian Peterson camp.
And we've been following that here as well, regardless of what the Vikings are saying about how, well, they have him and they're not going to let him go. We've been talking about it since we started this show, that from the onset, Peterson and the Vikings have fallen out of favor with each other, and he doesn't want to be there. Regardless of what they're saying, they don't want him there. So
no, they don't.
You're right. It's going to be an imminent trade for sure. I'll tell you one thing. I'm surprised that you felt that the Cowboys picking Gregory was such a risk. There's another player that, again, got busted for his use of marijuana. Unfortunately for him, this was his third offense. This is the third time he's been busted. He got busted the day before the draft happened. That was strike 3. He got busted at the combine, and he got busted in college. So this is 3 times already. And who should pick him up but the Denver Broncos? I found that to be hilarious, because we all know that Mile High City has a whole different meaning now. I don't know how smart that was. You're concerned with Gregory, but that was his first offense. And regardless of how you feel about marijuana use, I can't help but be reminded of Ricky Williams, because that was another guy who had huge anxiety issues. And again, he got busted for pot a lot, but that was his reason. And much like Gregory's reason is anxiety. But this other guy here that went to the Broncos, he doesn't have a reason. Likes pot. He doesn't care that it's a banned substance. You can't do it, can't use it. Regardless of how you feel about it, regardless of how I feel about it, the NFL says no. So he already has his third offense, hasn't even put on a uniform, hasn't inked a deal with them yet. They picked him up. Wow. I'm thinking, what are you doing? Not only do you get rid of your coach, John Fox, and you get a loser coach, Gary Kubiak, former Texans coach.
Coobs.
And call him loser for a reason. The dude doesn't have a good track record. Why are you picking up this guy? First rounder.
I don't know, man. We'll see. I guess it's the sheriff. The sheriff wanted him.
It's hilarious. So those, I think, were the biggest moves. We were meant to see who wasn't drafted that gets picked up on a bargain, and the free agents that are going to come out. We're still not done with that. And OTAs are starting to come about again. It's been, for the rookies, it's been the rookie events. And, oh man, the Jaguars, they get a defensive player that they've been hoping to get. They got him in the 3rd round, and he is done for the season already.
Yeah, they haven't had good luck in Jacksonville. Yep, tore his ACL, right? So he's gone for the year.
Doing drills.
Yeah.
He was just doing drills.
That's
a shame.
I mean, and then they want to extend the season. You know, I don't know. I don't get it. But yeah, he's out, and the interesting thing was he had just signed a contract the day before that said in case he gets injured, the Jaguars would negotiate with him in good faith. So I don't know, man. That is crazy to me as far as to how that happened. He signs that contract, and then the next day he gets hurt out for the whole year, and a serious injury. It's not even like, you know, he's gonna be out for a few months. No. But, yeah, man, I mean, a lot of things going on in the NFL. It never stops. But one of the things that recently happened is we had talked about Deflategate and how the NFL had just taken its sweet time and too much time to come down with a decision on that. And they just recently came down with a decision, finally released a report that they had found, and boy, was it a surprise. So Tom Brady's been suspended for 4 games. He can still participate in training camp as well as in preseason, but he won't return. I guess so that's like the whole month of September there. And it's after their bye week actually too, because they go play their first 4 games and then they got a bye week, and then week 6 they're gonna be playing the Colts, which isn't that interesting. I believe it was $1 million fine for the Patriots, and a first round in the next year's draft and a 4th round in the following year. So
yeah, that's the punishment. Full disclosure, for those of you that have been keeping up, I am a Patriots fan. Have been since I first started watching football. I saw them win their first Super Bowl with Tom Brady. I think it's harsh for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've said it on this show that there can't be much of a difference in the way that the balls were deflated or whatever you want to call them. The Colts weren't doing their job offensively or defensively, and it didn't matter to me because the Patriots defense still picked them off a lot. So this game wasn't going to be impacted that much by those balls. And if you want to say that it was, then the second half takes away your argument, because after the second half the Colts still didn't score, and of course the Colts had their own balls, so you can't say that it messed up their game because each team has their own balls. So it should have been a non-factor. I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying it can't be as big as a factor as being made out to be. And of course those issues weren't there for the Super Bowl, which of course they won with a defensive play, because that game was lost to them. That you have one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best running backs in there. It should have been over, but it was a botched call by the Seahawks coach, Pete Carroll, and that's the way it went. I think the biggest problem here and the biggest issue that we're not talking about, just as it's what we didn't talk about during the Ray Rice situation, is that the NFL has had an institutional failure of its own. So the reason why they fined the Patriots $1 million, they're saying that past offenses or past actions were taken into consideration, whether it be by Tom Brady himself or by the Patriots organization as a whole. That had a lot to do with why they got fined like this. Well, if that's the case, why can't we talk about their lack of institutional failures or the fact that they have a problem with how they do things? They handled the Ray Rice situation badly. It's been proven that they knew about it, they had the tape, and they acted like they didn't know about it, but somehow we didn't talk about that. We talked about Ray Rice. Well, we're not talking about the fact that the balls were checked before the game started, and they gave them right back to the Patriots, not excusing what they did. I'm not sure why it happened. I still say that from the text that I've read, these guys, and they work for the Patriots no less, don't like Tom Brady. They cussed at him and would talk a whole bunch of smack behind his back. And you can go ahead and look at that to yourself, though. There are some harsh words in there, so you definitely don't read them aloud. There's kids around. Not excusing it, but we don't know for sure what happened, if they acted alone. Can't prove that Tom Brady did it or not, but either way he's gonna get the hammer. But we're not talking about the failures of the NFL.
One of the things that they're punishing, there's a couple of things, is the integrity of the football game. and of the NFL, and the integrity of the NFL is they want to protect the football. So I think that's what they're going after, and saying that this was messed with, and so we're going to punish you for that, and that's what they're going after. So they want to protect the integrity of the NFL. I guess kind of an example. You're doing it, you're gonna get punished. Another thing is, like you said, they have a previous track record. The Patriots do, and so Tom Brady works for the Patriots, so in turn he does too. So that's why they punished him too. But the biggest thing was he did not cooperate with the NFL's investigation, and he said he wasn't going to, or he wasn't as forthcoming as they felt that he should have, and he didn't present his phone or his text message information, and so basically that told the NFL, well, he's guilty, and that's why he's being punished. That appeal process is already getting underway. I don't know if they're gonna bring it down that much. I kind of wish that they wouldn't, because the Cowboys play the New England Patriots over there on in week 4, but that's just kind of me being a Cowboys fan. But in all honesty, I think it's gonna calm down. That just seems kind of harsh to me, man. Like the whole 4 games for that, and just because it was just simply like, oh, you don't want to help us out, you don't want to clear.
Yeah, that's bullcrap.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not defending that he wasn't forthcoming with his help, but look, this is a guy who's being compared now to the greatest quarterback, Joe Montana. That's his idol. Yeah. Good or bad, the dude has an ego. I mean, you have to have one. When you get picked over and passed over, he was number 99 in the draft. 5 quarterbacks were taken ahead of him, and he has now won 4 Super Bowls. You're gonna have swagger and ego, and dare I say it, arrogance. You have to have that if you really want to be successful. You have to have arrogance. I mean, there's a good amount of it and a bad amount of it, but you have to have it. So I don't know why he didn't help, or why he didn't feel, but I gotta imagine that that's part of it. It's like, you really think I would do this? No, I'm not gonna give you my phone. No, you can't see my text message. This is my stuff. But yeah, I do agree. It is. I think it's harsh. I want to point out, and I've brought up the fact that I'm really not an Andrew Luck fan, but I definitely respect them a whole hell of a lot. When the whole Deflategate thing just broke, immediately after the AFC Championship game, they asked him for his thoughts. What do you think about the fact that they probably cheated with the balls? And he said, they didn't need those balls to beat us. And he could have said, you know what? I think they did cheat because wasn't playing well. There was something going on. This isn't us. Yeah, he could have gone that route, and he didn't. He had the perfect chance, because how many guys are now saying, especially with the Jets, when we played against them in the last game of the season, or in the second to last game of the season, their balls felt a little lighter. I mean, that's already starting. Yeah, it's and supposedly that's what started. So the fact that Tom Brady's father is alleging that there was a conspiracy going on, he's not far off, because this all happened from a couple complaints that the Jets were making prior to that. In fact, the text messages that are being displayed in this report, they referenced that game against the Jets. So Andrew Luck had plenty of chances to say, hey, well, we got robbed, and we deserve to go to the Super Bowl, not these guys. He didn't. He owned up and said his team didn't do what they needed to do. Now let's face it, the Colts really didn't have much of a defense anyhow. Defensively, they weren't going to pick off the Patriots. But offensively, they were stuck also, and that's what Andrew Luck owned up to. And I felt that he really was a class act for that whole thing.
He had all the chances in the world there to just open up, and nobody would have told him anything.
If Andrew Luck himself owns up that these balls weren't a non-factor, why are we making such a big case of it?
Well, it's the integrity. Like I said, the NFL is protecting the integrity. You don't mess with the football.
Okay, who gave them the balls back after they were tested?
That's why I think it's kind of harsh. I mean, I don't see it.
When the Deflategate story first broke out, you had a lot of people talking about the different things that people do to gain a little edge, where it's not exactly against the rules, but it's not in the rules either. So certainly you talked about the wide receivers that used that stick-em stuff on their hands back in the day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, oh, well, some people used it and they would deny it, even though it was pretty obvious that they did. Well, a lot of quarterbacks have now come and said, and a lot of them have done it off the record. Some of them aren't playing anymore, so they've said, yeah, we've done a couple things here and there. Aaron Rodgers, who was the best quarterback of the season by far and was the MVP, said that, yeah, he likes his balls a certain way and he likes them a little deflated. Nobody made a big stink out of it because they were crucifying Brady.
None of those balls are below the recommended levels. So that's the reason why that's yeah, they adjust them, but none of them are below that level. And see, that's where that issue. So a lot of these guys are speaking out. You you adjust them, you do this and that, but they were always above the level, and that's where this has become a problem, and this is why they're in trouble. I'll tell you one thing. I'm not a Tom Brady fan by no means, but I understand what you say. I have no problem with his play on the field. You know, it frustrates me because he wins and he beats my teams if I'm rooting for the other team. But these guys are special, man. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. These individuals, Aaron Rodgers, and even, you know, Brett Favre, I mean, John Elway, I can go on. There's a select few, and these guys have a mentality, and that mentality is they don't know how to lose. They don't expect to lose. They don't know what the word lose feels like, and they're not going to feel it. Every time they hit that field, every time they're gonna play a new game, they want to win, and they don't care what they have to do to win. And so I like that mentality from these guys. These guys don't understand what the word lose is because they're fighting till the last second to try and win that game. And man, if you watch some games with Drew Brees and against Tom Brady, you'll get to see some special moments, you know, because 30 seconds left, that's like an eternity for these guys. So and I like neither. But I love watching them play because their mentality, you know. But I think a lot of the things that came about is he didn't cooperate, and they have a history. The Patriots do, and that's what ultimately did them in for this kind of a harsh punishment.
And I'm not going to defend their legacy, and I'm not going to say I speak on all Patriots fans, because when the Spygate thing happened, I said, you know what, I'm not rooting for these guys anymore. And it took everything for them to win back my attention. It took me watching them lose twice to the Giants at the Super Bowl, and I was like, you know what, that's really hard, that they've come this close and they lost. And I said, you know what, Tom Brady is the man. And instantly I was in his corner again. And you're right, these guys they're cut from a different cloth, and they have a different mentality, and I think that's why he wouldn't cooperate. And if I were in his shoes, I'd probably get defensive about it myself. You're accusing me of cheating? I don't need to cheat. I don't need to do any of this, and I don't need to give you my phone. You don't need to see my test because I didn't do it, rightfully or wrongfully. That's the attitude he's gonna have. It's kind of funny that you bring up Peyton, because to me, I hold these guys at such a high esteem. Just the other day, my son was playing a video game, and he was like, I quit, I don't want to play anymore. And I said, whoa, do you think Peyton Manning quit all those times he went to the Super Bowl and he didn't win? I said, it's not about winning or losing. It's about you getting back out there and you try again. I was like, did Tom Brady quit after he lost those 2 Super Bowls to Eli Manning? No. I said, okay, next time you want to quit, I'm going to call Peyton, because, you know, he thinks his dad has Peyton Manning on speed dial. And I told him, I'm going to call Peyton and tell him that you're quitting. And he was like, no, don't do that. But that's the mentality that these guys have. They're winners, and that's what we associate them with. These guys aren't average people, and they're certainly not average football players. These guys are the elite of the elite. So I think that, you know, they say pride comes before the fall. That's going to be his undoing, probably. Is that he didn't cooperate, and it's gonna, you're right, he's gonna appeal it. They're gonna bring in an outside arbitrator, and it'll probably be shrunk down. I think maybe no more than 2 games. It's not gonna go away. He's gonna get punished somehow. And $1 million to the franchise, that's a lot of money, and a loss of a draft picks, and
then the 1st round pick and 4th round pick. And you know, that's how the Patriots build their teams, through the draft and through free agency.
Let's hope Jimmy Garoppolo can do it, because if not, that's a third of the season.
The Bills and Rex being over there, you have no idea. And then the Jets, I don't know. I don't know who their quarterback is going to be. They got about 8 or 9 wide receivers over there, but they have no quarterback. And I mean, the only one who could actually do something right now on paper, obviously we gotta wait till this thing gets started, is the Dolphins. You know, and if they can get out in a good lead and kind of keep it going, they could take that division, the AFC East.
It's not been a good couple weeks for sports fans, because we go from Tom Brady being suspended for 4 games, and we'll keep following how that goes. But the day of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, I tweeted on our Twitter that I felt that the fight wouldn't even come close to the Game 7 that we watched. So the game came and went, and it was tit for tat. We had 32 lead changes, and we had 17 ties, and at the end of it, the Clippers came out on top over the Spurs. But I'm going to point something out that I haven't seen reported, and I'm surprised that nobody has jumped on it. With 1.9 seconds to go, The Spurs had just called a timeout, so when they finished the timeout, they inbounded the ball. And right when they gave Tim Duncan the ball, somebody blew their whistle. One of the referees blew the whistle. And it wasn't for any reason. They called it an errant whistle on the TV broadcast that I was watching. And then they reset the clock to where it was. But by that point, the Clippers had seen their formation and how they were going to execute whatever play they were cooking. So they spied where they should be defensively. And Popovich had no time to adjust for it, so the play resumed, and they double-teamed Duncan. They threw him off balance, and he missed a shot that I would have always guaranteed him making, and they lose by 2 points. Now, why aren't we talking about this?
I don't know. That was a big deal, and they were upset. I mean, Pop was upset, and nobody talked about it. Nobody brought that up at all. But I'm going to tell you something, and this is something that I was very upset at the end of the season, because I felt that the Spurs lost the playoffs. The Spurs lost that season, or that series, on the very last game of the regular season when they lost to New Orleans. People would sit here and tell me that, oh, Pop wanted to lose that game. Pop wanted the 6th seed. It's like, no. You went all the way from the 2nd seed to the 6th seed, and then you lost home court advantage. That, to me, was when the Spurs lost their first series. It was just, I called it. I said, if this goes to Game 7, I don't think we're winning this. Chris Paul was hurt. He's seriously hurt. He comes back, and he has one of the most amazing games you will ever see. And he's hurt. And this does not happen if we're in San Antonio. He doesn't come back. If he comes back, he doesn't finish the game. And we don't have this. If we are in San Antonio in Game 7, the Spurs are now playing the Rockets and probably heading into the Western Conference Finals against, whoever comes out of the Warriors Grizzlies. I mean, yeah. And that's when the Spurs lost it, man. And you can say this and say that, but it's like a Game 7 on your own home court, you give yourself the best chances to win. When you go out there and you try to win a game, that's got to be one of the hardest things to do. And it just, to me, Chris Paul does not have that kind of a game if we're in San Antonio.
I've heard many athletes say, whenever fans or reporters point out or they fixate on one play, and they've always said, if a game is decided by one play, then you didn't do your job. I don't know that I agree with that, at least in this case, between the Clippers and the Spurs, because that whole series was tit for tat. I know we say that in sports all the time, but I've never seen a better example of it. You had two explosive teams, both of which did not need to face each other in the first round. That needs to be changed for sure. The way that the playoffs are being handled. Not only that, but then you've got the discrepancies in the Eastern Conference. Either way, these two teams did not have to face off. We could have had a super awesome series much later in the playoff schedule, and it would have been a massive hit as far as the ratings and as far as the excitement for the playoffs. And I feel like, and we both called it, somebody was going to go home ticked off. Somebody was going to go home sad, because these two, either way, a huge contender for the championship this year was going to be sent home early. That said, though, the Spurs are one of those teams where I understand that home court advantage is a big deal, but the Spurs play so well on the road because of y'all's rodeo schedule. I didn't think it would be that much of a disadvantage as far as home court advantage or not. My problem has been and continues to be the fact that those two teams should not have faced off. But home court advantage doesn't really matter, because now we're in the second round and the Rockets are choking. And that hurts me as a fan, but they're choking. Now, I said it, that I felt that we were better off against the Spurs because I liked that matchup a lot better. And everybody said, oh, the Clippers were better. You don't want to touch the Spurs. Well, either way, the Rockets are probably going to be sent packing. For whatever reason, it looks like they don't want it. And how do you go from having such a series where it's tit for tat and it's tied game, small lead, tied game, small lead, and it's just a constant back and forth, to just a butt whooping twice in a row? These guys get blown out. First by 25 points, then by 32 points, and it's embarrassing.
One of the first teams to ever win two playoff games back to back with 25 points or more. The Rockets just, they don't look like they're into it anymore. And that's what's disconcerting, because there is no leader on that team. You thought it was going to be James Harden, but if the shot isn't falling from James Harden, he has no way to get anybody else involved. And it's very frustrating to see. And Dwight Howard, not growing up, I mean, this guy is an unbelievable bust to me. And we saw it with the Lakers, and you know, I honestly thought, like everybody was saying, well, it's just difficult to play in LA. Well, it's just difficult to play with Kobe. And we gave him excuse after excuse. And then they say, fine, ship him off, we'll go. He goes and signs with the Rockets, think new day, you know, just what he needs, new play. And he just doesn't continue. Nothing, man. He would rather have himself stupidly get ejected instead of hanging it out and just being there with this team and taking that hit to the chops. No, he don't want to be around that.
Where's Richard Sherman?
He ain't a team player.
Where's Richard Sherman going? You mad, bro? Okay, you're mad because a call didn't go your way. You got yourself intentionally ejected when your team needs you. He didn't play the entire second quarter. He was barely there. He got into foul trouble, got 3 fouls, got taken out. He didn't play out the second quarter. Not thought, okay, when he comes back and Harden comes back, it's going to be trouble. And, you know, we're playing okay. We can do this. We'll win one in LA, and now it's a series. You know, it'll be 2-2. No, wrong, because this dude thinks he's still in middle school. Something didn't go his way. He threw the ball at the ref and got tossed. And your team needed you because last year, Harden, and again, we can discuss it again. I don't know what it is about Harden, where if it's the playoffs, he just fizzles out. Maybe it's that he turned it on all year. I don't know what it is, because it also happened in Oklahoma when they went to the finals. He fizzles out. I don't know what it is, but at least last year Dwight Howard picked up the slack. And hard for me to say that because I was so against him coming to Houston. I am not a Dwight Howard fan. He's got my team's jersey, so I root for him. But I'm not a Dwight Howard fan. And yesterday, I felt disappointed in Harden. Once again, I was like, see, this is why Dwight Howard doesn't belong here. You can't foul yourself out when your team needs you. This is a man's sport. If you don't want to be a man, go home. It's embarrassing.
Well, and you know what? Now we're getting to see what Kobe was talking about, man. You know, and people can say this and that about Kobe, but he saw it, man, and he tried to help him out, and he's like, nah, I don't want to play. And you can't do that, man.
I will say this about Kobe. I'm not a Kobe Bryant fan. Never have been. The dude plays. No. He complains about fouls. Whatever. The dude's hands are deformed for life because he's gotten his fingers hurt so bad. I told him stop playing. No, he doesn't stop playing. So he alternates how he shoots. He's had to reinvent his shooting stance with his hands so many times that his fingers are beyond repair. They're just messed up. His hands are going to be jacked up when he's old and gray. His hands are just messed up for life. The dude still wants to play. He's gotten hurt 2 seasons now. He still wants to come back, and he's gonna keep playing till he can't do it anymore. And this other guy here intentionally ejects himself, considering this is the first time that his team has made it out of the first round since 2009, and you pull yourself out of the game. I don't want to see him in this uniform anymore. And James Harden, if you're not gonna be a leader, I don't need you here either. I don't care that you're the best 2 guard in the NBA. You're 25 years old. You were second runner-up MVP. I don't care. If you're not going to play when it matters in the playoffs, I don't want you here. That's the real season. You can't say #pursuit if you're going to quit. They didn't fizzle out. They quit.
Yeah.
And that's I think, and I've said it, why the Spurs and why the mainstream media doesn't like y'all. I mean, they hate the Rockets for sure. Why they toss the Spurs aside like nothing is beyond me, because you guys are a well-oiled machine. Popovich knows how to use his starters. He'll save them during the season, and I know we have a huge problem with it, but it pays off. You guys took it to a very young team, and you took it hard. You took it so hard that the Rockets felt, oh, they just finished playing the Spurs. They'll be fizzled out. Big mistake. But the reason being is because they understood beating the Spurs was no small accomplishment. They were smart enough for that at least. They just didn't finish reading the rest of the story. But that's the difference between a champion and a chump. Tim Duncan doesn't quit. Parker doesn't quit. These guys play hurt, they come back. They don't quit. That's why they have the rings, and my boys don't. And it's a shame. Speaking of champions, so Steph Curry became the MVP. You've pointed out before, it wasn't even close.
It wasn't. And you know, we had a discussion here, and there was a top 3, and it looked like Russ was going to get some, because, I mean, Russ, at the end of the thing, was almost averaging a triple-double. You know, he had 13 triple-doubles in the year. And then Harden was just got the, he was pretty close to getting that scoring championship. I mean, Harden was just doing great. But, Steph Curry, man, just to tell you the numbers, it was 130 possible votes. And Steph Curry got 100, including the popular vote, which counts for 1. So if you win the popular vote that you vote for in the NBA.com, you get that. Harden got 25, and LeBron James, I mean, I guess he's got loyal fans or guys, I don't know, got 5 votes. So Russ didn't even get 1. So, but you were right. I think you mentioned it before, like nobody that doesn't make the playoffs is gonna get it either. So, but it was not even close, man. Steph Curry, man, ran away with it. Not currently playing at the level that I'm sure he wants to be playing at. Not the MVP level right now, as the Grizzlies are really making a series out of this one. But a big accomplishment for this young kid who's already got so many records, so many shooting records already are his, and he's still a young kid, man. So we'll see what happens. I mean, they're painting him as the next face of the NBA once LeBron steps down. I'm sure KD and Russ and even Harden have something to say about that.
Also,
though.
Derrick Rose, who's playing out of his mind.
Derrick Rose does not look like an individual who's coming off of knee injuries and you name it. That boy's got some step, and he's got a step, man. And I love it. I'm loving watching it.
He's cycling while he's on the bench.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, as soon as there's a timeout or something like that, he goes over here and they got a bicycle set up for him, so he's doing that.
I love watching him play too. We talked about him. We were worried when he went down earlier this year, and we were having a discussion whether or not he was done. I'm glad to see he is in it. I'm hoping they can take out the Cavs, man, because I want Derrick Rose to go further. LBJ's already done it. He's got his rings, but I want to see what Derrick Rose can do. Can he go to the finals? I want to see that.
We're gonna wrap up the show for this week. Again, find us on Twitter. That's at @RD_sports, and also on Facebook. Find us up there. We're gonna be there commentating on different things that are going on throughout the NBA playoffs and the NFL. See what happens with the appeal of Hardy, and also what steps they're gonna take for Tom Brady as well. So we're gonna be keeping up with that. But find us there, and like I said, just keep up with us there, and you'll find the show coming to you via different avenues. But we're gonna be here. AZ and Mr. JDR ain't going nowhere.
0 to 100, we'll be here. Believe that.